So last night was yet another Thursday night football game. The Bills beat the Dolphins 31-21 in Buffalo. One of the better Thursday night football games that you'll probably see. They usually have some of the worst matchups you can possibly imagine on Thursday night football. Either one team is significantly better than another and it's going to be a blowout, or it's two pretty bad teams like the Jaguars and the Panthers or something like that. A matchup that nobody is really going to watch on 1 o'clock on a Sunday. So put it on Thursday night and more people are going to watch because they feel obliged to watch, if we're being honest, if there's a solo stage football game, as do I. But Thursday night football, again and again, produces some of the worst quality football we see throughout the course of the season. Now, last night's game wasn't as bad just because we have Josh Allen and the Bills, one of the most exciting teams in the NFL, a team that looks like it could very well win the Super Bowl. We've been saying that for the last 4 years, it feels like, but maybe this is just a year. Josh Allen has turned a page. If the defense can get back to full strength, get Matt Milano back. Taylor Rapp is playing great. Joey Bosa looks very good so far. You have the pieces going together. James Cook is one of the best backs in the league. You got Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid. This team looks promising, and they put on an exciting show last night as well. You know, the Dolphins, with Tua and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, they put up some sort of an impressive game, some sort of a game where you look at and say that's something positive to take off. But they lose again and they're 0-3, and that's all that matters. But Tyreek looks like he's playing much better. Maybe his relationship with Tua is just, getting a little bit more polished as after it was out of sorts last year, especially with Tua being injured, of course. Jalen Waddle scored a touchdown. I'm always happy to see that. But once again, when it looks like the game could potentially go in Miami's favor, the Dolphins just do some bozo thing to lose them the game. Last night we saw that what almost was a block punt ended up being a roughing the kicker. It cost them 15 yards, and the Bills ended up scoring a touchdown. It would have been a tie game, 21-21, and the Dolphins would have gotten the ball back if that guy hadn't roughed the kicker. And instead, Bills get a touchdown on that drive. The very next drive, Tua turned the ball over, throws a pick right into the linebacker's hands. And it was just a gift for him right in his hands. And from then, the game was over, flat out simply. So, sucks for the Dolphins, but like I said, one of the better Thursday night games we'll see. I'm glad that it doesn't look like any players got any severe injuries from last night. But Thursday night football, bad. Just bad. And am I saying this as a salty Commanders fan? Because we lost Austin Ekeler for the season because of a Thursday night game last week. And Jane Daniels won't play in week 3 against the Raiders because of a Thursday night game against the Packers last week. The main issue with Thursday night football is it's just not enough rest time for the players. They can't possibly recover in the 4 days worth of break. And look, I understand why the NFL has Thursday night football. I get it. If you know the story behind Thursday night football, the NFL obviously wanted to find a way to make more money. And they were like, what if we put a game in the middle of the season, middle of the week, on Thursday night? It's perfect. So they had the game be exclusively on NFL Network at first. The NFL Network used to not be on all cable programs. It had to be like a separate package that you needed to buy. But because Thursday Night Football was on NFL networks, customers bullied the cable companies to put the game on, to put the network, to put NFL Network on regular cable television. That's why to this day, NFL Network is the only major sport in America that's on regular cable television. Not a premium subscription, not an advanced subscription. My parents, after, we don't, because of Netflix and because of all these streaming services, got rid of cable. But now everybody just, uses the streaming services, but NFL Network is still there with a basic cable subscription. And that's because of Thursday Night Football many years ago. Eventually they outsourced it, gave it to Fox. They had it for a while. I think CBS had it for a bit. And then boom, Prime said, we'll give you $1 billion a year for Thursday Night Football. And that's what's been happening recently. And it makes sense from a financial perspective. But for a league that always preaches about player safety, Thursday Night Football is just an example of just how full of shit they are, because you don't care about player safety. You care about maximizing profit without getting sued by players. You remember the major lawsuit that happened with the NFL many years ago when NFL players said that the league didn't protect them enough from major serious injuries that can happen from playing in the league. So it's all about protecting the shield. How can we avoid ourselves being punished for something? Do you remember at the beginning of this year, there was a whole controversy about the NFL banning smelling salts? Now, it's not banning smelling salts as a whole. It's just banning teams from providing the smelling salts themselves. Simply a way for the NFL to protect themselves. That's it. Because they don't want it to be a case of a player feels like they may have gotten concussion, uses team-provided smelling salts, and still ends up getting the concussion, and then blames the league that their smelling salts weren't good enough. We're taking that completely out of our hands. Once again, just a way for the NFL to protect the shield. Not the players, but the shield. And that's all that matters. And in this case of Thursday Night Football, they're getting so much money from Amazon that there's no way that they're going to cancel it. But, like I said, it's just not enough recovery time for the players, and it's dangerous. It's genuinely dangerous. I feel like we see the most injuries, even though I can't mathematically prove this, on Thursday Night Football. The players tell me I'm not fully ready yet on a Thursday night. I'm not there yet to go and play a game where I'm going to be beaten and brutalized in the head on Thursday Night Football. I'm not there just yet. But the NFL doesn't care because they're maximizing profit. So the ultimate question is, what do you do? Well, the NFLPA, I believe, would need to go to the league and say, hey, look, we don't love having to play Thursday night games. I don't think it's fair to us, and we think that maybe we should just move it to just more Sunday games. I understand you won't make as much money, but just move them back to Sunday, or do the Monday night doubleheader thing as you've been doing. They just had a Monday night doubleheader this past week. Find another way, but we can't play on Thursday nights anymore. The NFLPA presents that. The league takes note. The league understands that, well, we have an obligation to finish out our television contracts for the time being. Okay, fine. So you have to wait until the TV contracts end, and then Amazon's going to come with an even more hefty offer to potentially renew Thursday Night Football, and the league's going to be like, listen, I understand you want Thursday night to be gone, but if Thursday night is gone, all of y'all, your contracts are going to decrease by 10% or 12%. Or they're going to remain stagnant for 5, 6, 7 years. The salary cap's not going to go up. Basically, we're going to dig into your pockets, because at the end of the day, while it's not as safe for the players, it also makes them more money. And the players are like, listen, I understand it's not as safe, but I need to make more money. And I'm not talking about the Josh Allens and the Patrick Mahomes and the Micah Parsons and the people making millions and millions of dollars and who have signed such big contracts that they could retire now and still live a lavish life. I'm talking about the 45th or 46th person on a game day roster, the guy who's, barely on the team, a practice squad guy who gets pulled up to the main squad every now and then. That guy may have huge, serious issues with that because they really need the money and they really need to make as much money as they can. And any way that the NFL can maximize profits, they're going to take, because they're not playing in the games anywhere, not as much in the games anyway. So their risk of injury is significantly lower, so they don't care. So how do you sort that then? Does the NFL just go into another lockout? Because there's many other reasons for the NFL to go into lockout. Not having guaranteed contracts the same way that NBA players do. Not having healthcare provided by the league. I don't know if you remember, but when Damar Hamlin was, had a situation that happened in that Bengals game a few years ago, it was actually reported that the league had meticulously decreased the total amount of healthcare that players would get after they retired. A league that preaches so much about player safety found a way to cut healthcare funds from players over the years in order to what? Give more money to Roger Goodell and his minions? Come on, miss me with that. So the NFL doesn't care about player safety. They're a corporation, they're a business, and they care about making money. We know that that's the way it works. But do we get a situation now in our media day and age, in our social media day and age, where players have such a huge platform and so much power, way more than they did when they struck in 82 and they struck in 87, and NFL players didn't really have much power? Nowadays, every NFL player has, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Now every NFL player has a sword in their right hand, basically, to say, look at the NFL, this is what they've done. And I think more fans will sympathize with the players than the owners if that were to occur. But at the end of the day, will always be people, of course, will say, look, you're a millionaire, you're making millions of dollars, oh, whatever, shut the hell up, I don't feel sorry for you. If I had the same job as you where I was making, so much money, I would shut up and listen. You get paid to perform, once a week or whatever, like, oh, boo-hoo, I feel so sorry for you. Because, like I said, today's day and age, they can Google how much every player makes. And people who don't even care about sports do Google how much people make. And of course, we understand that. But my synopsis to that is this. If NFL players say, listen, we want to get rid of Thursday Night Football, and we understand that we're going to take a dip in our contracts, a dip in how much we're paid, Or we want to get from 17 games and revert back to 16 games. Or we just want to stay at 17 and don't increase to 18 like it feels like the league is going to do. But we're willing to take either the 10% or 12% or however much it is, probably not that much, whatever percentage pay cut that's going to come with that. Or we're understanding that more money that is there for us to be made, we're willing to not take it or not have it be made by us. If that means preserving and protecting ourselves, playing better high quality football after having a week of rest, and potentially prolonging our careers so that we aren't, feel like we're finished or done by 30. Because for some reason, even though players of every sport are playing longer now than they ever have, 35, 36, 37, 38, it feels like athletes of almost every sport are playing less games than they ever have before. Missing a game, playing the next game, missing 3 games, playing the next game. We see this all the time in basketball. In soccer, it's not even a norm for a guy to play every game. It's just not. No, like rarely ever does a player play every single game. It's incredibly rare if they do. It's just not the norm. So if you go to, a City game or United game or, an Arsenal game or one of those games, it's not guaranteed that your favorite player will play in no shape or form. And it doesn't feel like there's this shame about it, the shame about guys not playing that there is in basketball, where if LeBron misses a game, oh my God, he's a load manager. Look at him. Oh, he doesn't care about the fans. Oh, he's so selfish. Oh, look at him. He's just fine. He's jumping and screaming on the bench. It doesn't feel like there's that feeling of sort of shame or that taboo feeling where it's like guys have to play every game. And they've just adopted it because there's so many games now. It's absurd. Yeah. Tennis players, for instance, they don't play in every tournament. They find ways to skip tournaments if it's too much. Maybe will that become the case in football? It hasn't been for a long time in football just because the season's so short. And because the season's so short, every game feels like it's an incredibly important game. And there's no such thing as load managing. It feels like anyone's, unless you're at like the last game of the season and your seating is already over or like, set or something like that. It doesn't feel like that really exists. So that's something to keep in mind. But regardless, Thursday Night Football is bad. It needs to die. And I think it's watering down the NFL product. And I wish they would do something to sort it. There's other resolutions that you can make. I don't know if some of you guys know about a very outdated American law that says that the NFL legally is not allowed to have games on Friday nights and Saturdays from like September to like mid-December or something like that because of college football. In the 60s, when the NFL first started to become really, really popular and overtook baseball as America's national sport, there was a law signed that literally doesn't allow professional football to be played on Friday nights and Saturdays. That's why they always find ways to maneuver around it. There's a reason why the Friday night game at the beginning of September is in Brazil, not in America. There's a reason for that, to get around the law. There's a reason why the Black Friday game that always happens the day after Thanksgiving is at 3 p.m. Eastern, not at night, to get around the law. There's always reasons for that. They're trying to find ways to make money, but, not get sued or not get into any fiscal trouble. They know what they're doing. At the end of the day, they know it. So could we potentially amend that law because it's very outdated and say, hey, Thursday night football turns into Friday night football. And for college, for instance, they no longer have Friday. Maybe they have Thursday. It's not the biggest difference, but 5 days of rest for football players as opposed to 4 days of rest could very well be a very good thing just for helping players recover. Because I remember Lewandowski was even saying, like, during a match, if we played 3 days ago, I can tell the difference between, 2 days of rest versus 3 days of rest. There's a difference. If we play on a Saturday and then the next week we play on a Sunday after having played on Wednesday during the weekend, there's a difference in just that one day. And I think there could definitely be a difference. Maybe there's just an increase in overall quality for the fans. There's a decrease in injuries for the players. It's a Friday night, so more and more fans will be able to go, especially if you're having like a West Coast Thursday night game that starts at like 5 p.m. local time and fans can barely make it. Maybe if it's on Friday, more fans will be available to make the game or to watch it from home. So overall, I think that would be a better solution for the NFL. But Thursday night football in and of itself isn't good. The quality isn't good. It's not good for the players. And quite frankly, it's not a good product overall. But the NFL is not going to stop making it because they're making a bag. And they understand that money comes before everything, no matter how much they preach about player safety. But regardless, Thursday night football needs to die.